Hi folks, how yous doing? And welcome to another Bobsters Pod Blast. And I've got here one of my heroes, real hero, Tim Healy. Welcome to the Pod Blast, mate. How are you doing today?
I'm absolutely fine. It's a pleasure to be here. Hero. I'm very flattered you've called me a hero. I've been called all sorts of things in my life, but not that very often. But yeah, anyway, listen, I'm delighted to be here.
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant. I'm absolutely thrilled, and a lot of my friends and family are thrilled that you're doing this as well with me. So I'm absolutely delighted, mate. You know, but one thing I've always wanted to know, Tim, is obviously for years I've noticed you in different genres of like television, obviously like comedy and drama, and obviously children stuff as well years ago. And what actually made you want to be an actor?
Well, it came from my dad. My father was a very keen amateur actor, and as a little boy, I used to go and watch him in all these plays, and he used to run the Birdley Amateur Dramatic Society and Operatic Society, and he used to do all stuff like the Desert Song and all these operas and stuff and that. And from being 5 years old, I used to watch him. And when I was 11, he said to me, do you want to be in this play I'm doing called Finian's Rainbow? And it was to play a little American lad called Henry, who was 11, and he was black. The whole thing about Finian's Rainbow is all the cast are turned black. You wouldn't get away with it now, but at the time, you see, everybody had to black up, And I was 11, and I used to watch my dad every year. He used to be the pantomime dame and the pantomime, and I used to watch him transform into this pantomime dame and put his makeup on. And when he asked me to play this part of Henry, the little boy, I said, "Dad, can I do my own makeup?" And he taught me. He said, "Yeah." He gave me the sticks and said, "Put number 5 on." And I went sort of orange, and then number 7, and then a number 9, and I got black until I was totally black, playing this little black American boy. I had to do an American accent. And this was in Burley in County Durham, And I've still got the photograph of the first night I went on. My first ever performance was as this little coloured boy called Henry. And I took my own makeup, and I had shorts on, and I've got a black body and white legs. And I forgot to tone my legs. So, you wouldn't get away with it now, would you? But that was my first ever role, was this little black boy called Henry in Finian's Rainbow. And I fell in love with the whole thing then. That's all I wanted to do. I fell in love with the whole thing, the fact that you had this team of people and we're all getting ready to go on stage and perform. And of course, they did it for a week, and then they all went back to work. But that's where I got the passion from, yeah.
Brilliant. Absolutely. So you're bitten by the bug after that?
That was it.
Brilliant, mate. Absolutely brilliant. So,
I've still got the photograph upstairs with me shorts on and me little white legs.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Listen, you could always look back on that, and that's just fantastic. You'll know that then that was like when you got into acting and you're bitten by the bug, So that's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But do you remember, like, when you kind of started off, like, later on, like when you were on Play for Today? Do you remember that one, Tim?
Well, a lot's happened between then. The thought of being an actor in those days, as 11-year-old boy, was a dream. I never thought it would ever happen. And I was a welder in a factory, and then I joined 4 Para, the army, and I got so fit doing P company with a parachute regiment and stuff. One day I just threw the gear down, and I went to enroll at Durham Technical College on a drama course. And I thought, no, well, I'm gonna give it a go as being an actor, and if not, I'll teach drama, or I'll do a teachers training college, And while I was there, I met my old mate David Whittaker, and there was an advert in the Chronicle just as we were finishing at 21 years old to start up a new theatre company in Newcastle called the Live Theatre, and it wanted Geordie actors. Well, before then, there'd never been any working class actors. Everybody that was an actor was from either the upper classes or middle class people. That's why you get all those terrible accents, in the 50s and 60s of middle class people pretend to be Scotchmen, and you get all those sort of, the Nick the do there. Yeah, you used to get all these terrible accents because, actors were middle class. So we started this theatre company off in Newcastle called the Live Theatre, and we took plays to people in the Northeast who didn't go to the theatre. So we would perform in church halls and community centres, working men's clubs, anywhere where we could find an audience, and we would do plays about the working classes. And first of all, we couldn't get a grant. We started off in a block of flats, in Gateshead on the 13th floor, and all we had was a tape recorder, and we used to improvise all day and then write a play in the evening. And then eventually, of course, we did get a grant from Northern Arts about 2 years later, and that sort of the company started to take off, and I spent a long time there before I did my first television, which was a play for today, and it was written by Tom Hadaway, who by this time was a fantastic writer at the Live Theatre. It was great that I was doing Tom's first piece for TV. And I had to play a fish fillet on a fish key. And I remember having to learn how to fillet fish. And of course, I was absolutely delighted, I was starting to break into television then, So this was 1976. So it's a long time ago. Yeah. Hope that answered your question.
Brilliant. You know what's really funny? It's like, I could actually remember you appearing on like different shows, such as you were on Coronation Street, weren't you?
Yeah, around about the same time. Yeah, in fact, it was the director who directed me in the play for the day offered me a little part in Coronation Street, and I remember, that was it as far as my mother was concerned. She told the whole street, he's in Coronation Street. And if you made a cup of tea, you'd have missed me. I only had 3 or 4 lines with Jean Alexander, the actress who played Hilda Ogden, and old Albert Tatlock, Jack Howarth was his real name. He was in it too. And I remember walking in there, and in those days, you used to have rehearsals. They only did 2 shows a week in those days. So you had time. I think they don't really have the time anymore to do soaps. The actors are under tremendous pressure to put like 5 shows a week out. But in those days, we actually had rehearsal. And I remember walking into the rehearsal room, and Pat Phoenix swore, I remember. Just, she was, we mother heard her say that, in them days. And I didn't have the guts to tell her what she said when I got home, But yeah, happy days.
Brilliant. But you've worked on many great shows. Obviously, I can remember seeing that clip when you were in Coronation Street. Did you not have like a tash? You had a tash in it, didn't you?
Well, I was a stand-up comic at the time. I had hair as well down to me. I was like a weekend hip, I had a big tash. Everybody had a tash in the 1970s and long hair. But I was working as a stand-up comic in the clubs at the time as well. So I was doing cabaret as well as acting,
Brilliant.
Yeah.
But you've worked on loads of great shows. I tell you what, one really stands out is the World Cup, A Captain's Tale. I thought that was brilliant. Absolutely loved that.
Yeah.
It's been years since I've actually saw it, but I remember watching it at the time and loved it. It was great.
Well, it's a true story. It's a true story. The first ever World Cup was won by West Auckland.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at the time was second bottom of the Northern Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
And they went across to Italy and they beat Stuttgart in the semi-final, and then they beat Juventus in the final in 1910. They came back. They were given a fortnight off work without pay.
Mm-hmm.
They had to sell their furniture to get the money to get there. And when they came back, I mean, nowadays, of course, there have been huge heroes, but these guys came back in 1910 and went straight back down the pit, you know. Mm-hmm. And then they went back the next year and they won it again. They won 6-0 against Juventus. And I love driving through West Auckland now on my way up and down to Cheshire, because I passed a statue. There's a wonderful statue in West Auckland, and it says, as you drive into West Auckland, it says, home of the first World Cup. And I've heard it on questions on all sorts of quiz programs. You know, who won the first World Cup? So Argentina, Spain. No, it wasn't. Was it? No. It was West Auckland, pal, Geordies. And in those days, of course, you know, you could shout down the main shaft. They were all miners. Mm-hmm. And you get a brilliant centre half, you know, they were tough, hard men. And that's who won the World Cup, actually. Mm-hmm. They kicked them to bits, you know, the Juventus. A load of Geordie miners, you know. That's a fantastic story. And in fact, it was a true story.
Yeah.
When I got the part, I actually had to play football, and we went down to audition in London. And there were 22, they narrowed it down to 22 players. And so we had to have a match. And they had to pick 11 players out of these 22. And luckily, I got the part. It was the best job I've ever had. Imagine, you know, I was only 30 at the time, 20. And we all went to Juventus. We went to Italy. We were playing football. You imagine getting paid and just playing football every day and filming, you know. Fantastic. It was the best job I've ever had. And I made some great friends. Brilliant. Dennis Waterman became a great pal of mine. It was Dennis's idea, actually. He read this article in a magazine, and he got his friend Neville Smith to write the script. Mm-hmm. And then they brought Tom Clegg in, who was the director of the Sweeney and Minder, and that's where it all started from. So we've got Dennis Waterman to thank, really, and he played the captain, and I had to teach him a Geordie accent, which was quite difficult, but he didn't do bad. You know, they reckon Geordie's the hardest accent to do. Any actor will tell you that. And I think they're right. I mean, it's taken me 70 years, and I'd nearly do it. Do you know what I mean? Any actor will tell you that. It's the hardest accent to do, apparently.
Brilliant. It's just such a great job. Sometimes the Geordie accent can sound similar to like the Scottish accent. You know, I mean, like Edinburgh. You know, it's like, I mean, we all say bairns, we say a Ken.
Yeah. Well, you know, they reckon that that's what I love about being in England or Britain. You know, every 10 miles you travel, the accent changes, you know. So as an actor, it's a wonderful place to be. I mean, if you know the difference between a Newcastle accent and a Sunderland accent, very, very different. You've only travelled 10 miles. Same with Manchester to Bolton, you know, completely different. You know what I mean? So it's fantastic that we have that richness in characters, you know, be able to do all these different accents.
It's like as well, like when you go from Edinburgh to Glasgow, and it's like there's two different accents there as well.
Absolutely. Same in Ireland as well, you know, Belfast, you know, which is and then you just go 10 miles and it gets quite nice and lovely and sounds nice, very, very sort of nice voice, you know. Right throughout the whole United Kingdom, you know, fantastic.
It's a great island, isn't it? It's like, it's fantastic. I remember like during the first lockdown and stuff, like we went up to the Isle of Skye, which was amazing.
Oh, beautiful.
And then obviously I had to go back down to London for a COVID test because I was in a film. It was a Terence Davis film called Benediction, which had Peter Capaldi and Geraldine James. and I had to go over to London for my COVID test before actually heading up to Wolverhampton to one of the places there. It's like a Staffordshire, quite near Wolverhampton.
Not far away.
Yeah,
not far away. Yeah,
because I think it was kind of quite near there. We were actually.
Did you have to do a Brummie?
Well, no, because it was like a big manor house where we filmed these scenes, and it was kind of like, for some reason, it was like set in Scotland, But
right.
But
so you managed a Scottish accent, all right?
So I just kept my Scottish accent, But just the experience going down was just fantastic, And I was in scenes with an actor called Jack Loudon, who's been on quite a few things now. But that was great. But but I tell you what, mate, honestly, it's just just the Geordie. I love going to Newcastle as well. Newcastle's it's a wonderful city. It's a wonderful city.
So are you in Scotland now as we're talking? Are you up there?
Yeah,
now?
I'm in Edinburgh, Tim. Edinburgh.
I love Edinburgh. Yeah, I love the festival.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The festival's fantastic. There's that much stuff you can't get to see it all, can you? I mean, I did a one-man show there about 8 years ago, maybe. I was at the Gilded Balloon. And it was great because I started at 7 o'clock and I finished it. It was just a one-man show. I finished at 8:15. It was only an hour and a quarter, which was fantastic, which meant I could go out all night, and watch stuff, all the late-night comics and that. And then I'd lie in bed till about 2:30 in the afternoon and then get up and get myself ready, for my show. And then I'd be out watching it. And I was right next to Barry Cryer, bless him, he's only just died last week.
I know.
Barry Cryer, what a comedy legend he was.
Yeah.
And his show was on next door to me, and he went up at 7 o'clock and came down at 8:15. And we used to meet each other at the stage doors, going in, and we never got a chance to see each other perform. But we'd have a coffee or a pint afterwards, What a great man he was. He was a legend. He was a legend, absolute comedy legend.
You know what, Barry Cryer, it's like when you think of like all these top, shows like Morecambe and Wise and the Two Ronnies, they were like influenced by Barry Cryer, And
he wrote for Tommy Cooper even as well.
Yeah, even when you think of like Spike Milligan and that. But I tell you what, though, it's just it was sad when he went, wasn't it, Tim? It was like you felt like something ended when he died.
He seemed like one of these guys who thought he was going to live forever because he'd been around a long time in this industry, And he was like a walking encyclopedia of music hall and show business. He just lived for the whole thing, and he really was. He really was like an encyclopedia. Very clever man, but very funny as well. Very, very funny. You couldn't tell him a gag because he'd heard it, Like Les Dawson, you couldn't tell Les Dawson a gag. I remember telling Les Dawson a gag. And it was a waste of time.
You know what? See all these old comedians, man. Honestly, they were fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Sadly, there's some great new people. Don't get me wrong, some great new kids coming up, new people coming up, but it's sort of like a music hall sort of thing. They're all sort of now, there's not many left now. Sad, but life moves on.
Yeah, that's the thing. My dad, he was an old docker. He worked in Leaf Docks, and he used to love watching all these working man's comedians.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, a lot of them were quite blue, but really, really funny.
Well, I know. The thing is, we've got so politically correct now, though. I think even the new comedians now on the alternative scene, they're frightened to say you've just got to crack one gag that's not accepted.
Yeah.
And your career's finished. People are frightened to tell jokes now. When I was doing stand-up, I wouldn't be racist. I wouldn't be sexist. I wouldn't tell a bad gag. That's why I love Tommy Cooper so much, because you could be black, white, you could be a granddad, you could be a child, and nobody would be harmed at all. You wouldn't see anything to offend anybody. And all that, to me, is comedy genius.
Oh, fantastic.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And, but yeah, some gags I'm frightened to tell now, though. You know what I mean? You've got to watch what you're saying, haven't you?
You know, see Tommy Cooper, though, honestly, he was just fantastic. He was a fantastic comedian. You just look at him and you just burst. The audience laughed. You know, it was just.
That's right.
Absolutely.
He was my hero as a kid. All I wanted to be when I was a little boy was Tommy Cooper. I just wanted to be Tommy Cooper. And I remember when I was 17 years old, I went off in my dad's car, lent me his car for a weekend, a Triumph Herald, and we drove to Blackpool, and we were keeping in a tent. And I remember I said to myself, I'm going to lock myself in the car, and I'm not going to get out the car until I can do Tommy Cooper. And I locked myself into this Triumph Herald, right, for 4 hours until I could do the voice. And then eventually, I opened the door all there, and I closed the door all there, and then I had it by that time, and it's still there now. Favorite.
Bravo, mate. Honestly, that's brilliant.
True story.
You done up me a tear there, Tim. Honestly, Tommy Cooper, that was fantastic.
I loved him, yeah.
But Tommy,
I loved him.
And he was brilliant. I mean, all right, he was good at his comedy, but even his magic was fantastic as well. It was just brilliant how he done it. Made it more entertaining.
Same thing as Les Dawson, you know, playing the piano badly. You know, you've got to be very good to do that. And Tommy looked like he was lost. It looked like he was a big kid, a big child that was lost and didn't know what was happening next. But mark my words, every single prop he had on that table was in exactly the right place. And what looked like a terrible mistake was meticulously rehearsed. That's how clever he was.
Brilliant. Just an absolutely brilliant man. He was a brilliant man. And he was like part of like a dying breed, I feel, Tim. You know, just the type of comedian.
Yeah. Well, he was a one-off. We'll never find another one of him, I don't think.
Yeah. Absolutely.
No. For that one.
Yeah. But I tell you what, though, I mean, moving on, I mean, obviously, you've worked on, obviously, like lots of dramas and obviously comedy. And like, you know, you've did like children's shows as well. I mean, you were on Tickle in the Tum with Ralph McTell.
Yeah.
And
that was great fun, Ralph and I. I basically got, my character was called Barney Bodger, the bargain builder. And I based him on, when I was a kid, there was a character called Mr. Pastry. Your dad will remember him. And he was like a buffoon, you know, a guy wanting to do well, but got everything wrong. And that's what I did. I remember doing the first take, and Ralph was having to play the piano and sing the song, tap, tap, tap with the hammer. And off I went, and he could not get through the song for laughing, because he wasn't expecting me to get it wrong, you see. He was expecting me to get it right. And we had to do 15 takes before we got the whole thing in. And he's dined out on that for years, Ralph. And I'll never forget, years later, in 1990, I was in Melbourne doing a TV series called Boys from the Bush. And Ralph McTell performed at the big theatre in Melbourne. And he had no idea I was in Australia. So I just turned up to watch him. I didn't tell him I was coming. You know, he's on the other side of the world, really. But anyway, I went into the auditorium and I watched his whole show. And at the end, he said, have we got any requests from people? You know, and he was expecting them to say, Streets of London or whatever. And I shouted from the back of the stalls, tap, tap, tap with a hammer. And he threw him, you know, and then he went, oh. it looks like we've got a tickle on the tongue, Fanny. Oh, yeah, that was really good fun to do that. And he had a bit of chat. And anyway, I just went round and knocked on the door, and his dressing room door. And he used to open the door, and I said, "You all right, mate?" He went, "Oh, Jimmy, what are you doing on the other side of what you doing in Australia?" And we've been mates ever since, yeah. Great fun that was.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I remember
all the guys that were unemployed, because unemployment then was 1983, was pretty bad, you know. And in fact, that's what Auf Wiedersehen is about. It's about people having to go abroad to work in the 80s when the construction industry collapsed, that, you know. But all the guys that were on the dole then, you know, I used to watch it in the afternoon, and a lot of adults found it funny, you know. So it became a bit of a cult at the time. Yeah, it was pretty good fun, you know.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But I mean, Tickle on the Tongue, I mean, it had lots of like great guests. It had Billy Connolly on it, and had like Cecile, and you know, guests with that caliber. You know, it's
Penelope Keith,
Penelope Keith,
Elodie, Billy Connolly, lots of really good people on it. Yeah.
It was. Yeah. I mean, I remember going from my school. My house was right next door to my school at the time, and I would put that on the TV, and then, you know, it was just great seeing all these wonderful actors on that show at the time. Like, you know, it was mental, absolutely mental.
Yeah, it's good fun.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I remember it was on the TV not that long ago. I saw you on Minder, and you played a cop.
Minder, yeah. Well, Minder wasn't. Of course, Dennis and I became great mates when we did the World Cup of Captain's Tale. He basically said, "Look, mate, I've got this little part, small part." He said, "Do you want to do it? Be like have a pint." You know what I mean? We were mates by then, and I went in and I actually played Mel Smith's Minder. Who was twice the size of me, to be honest with you. But it was just good fun, you know. It was good fun, and I had a great week with Dennis and that. We had a couple of nights out, but I thank him very much for asking me, you know. So, yeah, that was good fun to do.
He's a fantastic, I mean, he's a great actor, Dennis Waterman. Great, he seems like a cool guy as well. Seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, certainly is. Yeah, good lad. Really good lad, yeah.
Fantastic. Now, Tim, what I'm going to say here is, you're well known for playing Dennis Paterson on Auf Wiedersehen Pet, which to me is the dog's bollocks, I'll say. And, you know, it is my favourite show, I'll have to admit that. And, you know, you must have had some great times when you were making that show, you know, and it seemed like you had a laugh making it.
I mean, yeah, well, I was so lucky. You know, they say there's a lot of luck involved in our industry. And I think it's all about being in the right place at the right time. You know, I'd just done what we were talking about, the World Cup of Captain's Tale, was actually being shown at ITV to the press on the day that I auditioned for Auf Wiedersehen Pet. First of all, the script arrived, and I looked at it and I thought, Auf Wiedersehen Pet, what's this? What's this about? A German language program or something. Anyway, I read the script and I just, and before I'd met anybody, before I'd met any of the characters, I just couldn't put it down. It was so brilliant to read. It was like a breath of fresh air. And I remember I went in to meet Roger Bamford, the director, and Martin McKean, the producer, sadly, who passed away. I was at his funeral, actually, just 3 weeks ago. Very sad. But they said to me, so what are you up? I said, well, actually, I'm in a film called The World Cup of Captain's Tale. It's actually on tonight, you know, at TNT's television and just up the road. So they went and watched it. And they saw me playing this character, Hoggy. And I had this big speech in the film where I was, you know, telling the lads to get stuck in and, you know, we're made of iron and, you know, we're going to win the game and that. And they saw me in that film, and offered me the part. And that was it. That's how I got Dennis's part. So when I say look, it's like being in the right place at the right time. I had something to show them so they could see, what I'd done, really. So I was very lucky. And then, of course, I met all the other characters after that. And it's one of those jobs that you'll never forget, It starts off with just brilliant writing, and it was honest and true at the time. All these guys had to go to Germany to work, because they couldn't work in England. There were 30,000 British workers out there then at the time when we were working there. And they were on what they call the lump, which meant they didn't have to pay German tax. So a lot of them stayed there for quite a while. And it was a comic look at, these 7 guys that were forced into this hut, really, by mistake. They would probably have never been friends, unless they'd been put into this hut, a bit like the army. It was just beautifully drawn, beautifully written, and then, they got the right cast. I mean, and we just had a ball, And it was almost like winning the lottery, young lad at 30 years old. You got the best job in the world, So it was the best thing ever happened to me. And of course, that opened doors. Then all of a sudden, we all became like, it was madly famous. It was a bit like being a rock star in those times, because you think about it. There were only 3 channels, really. Channel 4 was just starting. Only 4 channels. We were getting 17 million viewers. So from overnight, I couldn't walk down the street. I mean, I remember going into Marks and Spencer's to get some trousers, because I've only got little legs. So they're only shop you get little legs, And I just walked in the shop. And I was in there for 3 hours. The boss came out, the manager came out, they took me round the back. I had to meet everybody in the canteen. I met all the staff.
Oh, yeah.
And your life changed overnight.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And I mean, I've always wondered this, so obviously you had Kevin Whately and Jimmy Neal. I mean, did you know the guys before you were on the show? Or?
Well, yeah, I knew Kevin because he was going out with Madeline Newton, his wife now, who had worked with me as a founder member of the Live Theatre Company. So I'd known her for about 10 years. And I'd known Kevin for 3 or 4 years, yeah. And Jimmy I knew, Jimmy Neal, he was Val McLean's brother, and we were all frightened of him, because he used to pick her up from when we were doing gigs at the Live Theatre. He sometimes used to come and pick her up. And he was a bit wild, and he used to say, "Oh, I'm not going in there. I hate the theatre, like, I fucking hate it. I'm not going in there, like, And I'll wait outside for you, And we said, "Oh, Jimmy, So I remember when he came into the audition, I'd already got Dennis's part by this time. And I was working with other actors to cast Oz. And Jimmy walked in, and of course I recognised him straight away, and I thought, my God, it's Val McLean's mad brother, Anyway, he read the script with me, and he was absolutely brilliant. He just was fantastic, and and that was it. That's how it started. They couldn't have cast anybody to play it as well as he did. No, he was just a natural, Absolutely. And of course he went mad for the first year or so because he couldn't believe what was happening to him, But very clever man, Jimmy, very, very clever man. And of course he just grabbed it. And now he's had a fantastic career, He's a top man.
He's a very talented guy, isn't he, Timmy? He's like Jimmy. Absolutely. He could sing. He could, he's
good singer. Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. But I mean, he's all had a great time, and he couldn't have picked a better cast in that show.
Well, yeah, like I say, it's first of all, it's the writing. It's on this script. I'm not kidding you. I mean, I could not put it down. It's very, very rare that happens, And it's so beautifully written. If I can almost explain to people who aren't actors. You know, if you imagine a bricklayer's, a plasterer's job, a plasterer, his job, you know, is to skim out a wall that's been built. You know, now if the bricklaying has been done really well, it just has to skim it. You know, but sometimes there might be big holes in it, you know, and he's got to like fill the holes in. Well, the Dick Clement and Ian Lafreniere script, right? All you've got to do is skim the surface. It's absolutely beautifully. The wall is perfectly flat, perfectly built, not a hole in sight anywhere. And the plasterer's job is just to skim the brickwork, and it's beautiful. And that's what the script is for an actor. And you probably come across, you know, one of those once in your life, really, maybe twice if you're lucky. It was so beautifully written, you know.
Absolutely fantastic. Right. Tim, can you give me a little second just now? There we go, mate. I'll edit that bit out. Just I was just
all right, yeah,
just charging the old computer there, so that's better. Yeah, but going back to, you know, Auf Wiedersehen Pet, I mean, you know, I mean, he's made all those. I mean, see, after making the second series, and you know, like, did you actually think after the second series that was it? You know, that's it over type thing?
Well, that was the plan. That was the plan. I think what were you going to say about us coming back again?
All right. I was
the thing was,
like, did you think there was going to be like a series 3 or like after the second one? Or
no, because we had 15 years off, you know, after the second series, and by this time we'd all become quite established. And Kevin went off and did his thing, and Jimmy went off and became a rock star, and Chris Fairbank went off and did all sorts of things, and Timothy Spall's movie career started to go off. Kevin Whately, of course, did Inspector Morse, and then Lewis. And then Sammy Johnson, who was my best friend, he played Stick in Spender with Jimmy. So Jimmy knew him very well as well. But I'd started work with Sammy at the Live Theatre Company in 1973. So he's my best friend. He died, and I was heartbroken. And Jimmy came to see me. He said, well, why don't you do something for him? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you could put a park bench in Jesmond Dean or something. I said, well, why don't we do a show? If I did a show at the City Hall, would you come along and do it with me? Jimmy said, yeah, of course I will. So what we did was we did a one-off performance at the City Hall in Newcastle. We were going to give the money we made to Ronnie's favourite charity, Sammy's favourite. I'm calling him Ronnie. His real name was Ronnie Johnson, but his acting name was Sammy Johnson. He was called Samuel Ronald Johnson. So anyway, we did this one-off thing, and Dick Clement and Ian Lafreniere wrote 2 Auf Wiedersehen Pet sketches. Now, the public had never seen these sketches live, or these 3 characters, Dennis, Oz, and Neville. They'd never seen them live on stage. And the reaction that we got when we walked out at the City Hall was just phenomenal. It was just electric. And when we came off stage, we couldn't believe the response we got. And Jimmy said, do you fancy doing another Auf Wiedersehen? Do you think we should do another Auf Wiedersehen Pet? So anyway, we told Dick and Ian, who were in Los Angeles, how it had gone, and said it went incredible. And they came up with the idea to take the bridge down at Middlesbrough. And within 6 months, we were back up. So sadly, it took Sammy Johnson to die to bring us all back together. But now, of course, the Sammy Johnson the trust that we do, I've done a show at the City Hall and now at the Arena.
Who was it? I saw someone put a post up. The girl that plays Vicky in the second series, Leslie.
Oh yeah, Leslie St. John. Yeah, she's
St.
been
John.
there just about every year. Yeah, she comes in. We all do sketches. All my mates come, Johnny Vegas and
Johnny
Kevin
Vegas.
Whaley and Chris Fairbank, Tim Spall. My ex-wife Denise Welsh, she comes. Charlie Hardwick, Angie Lonsdale, and then we have a band. It basically used to be Lindisfarne. Billy Mitchell fronts now with Ray Laidlaw on the drums and. Some fantastic musicians we've had over the years as well,
Fantastic, absolutely fun. I mean, that sounds like an amazing show. And I saw the bit where you are all at the end, when you are all singing at the end, and that looks fantastic.
Run for Home, yeah. Run for Home's become the Geordie anthem. We were doing it at the end every show now, yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. Honestly, and I tell you what, I'd like to go to one of these shows. It looks amazing. It looks fantastic.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, it's become so popular. The reason we moved from City Hall, which was a great place to be because it's the heart of Newcastle, but there were so many disappointed people wanting to come, they couldn't get in.
Yeah, it
got so popular, this show, that you couldn't get in the City Hall. So now we do the arena and we get 15,000 there on a Sunday, which is fantastic. And it means that we make more money for the charity as well, of course. And even then, people still can't get in, but you can buy the DVDs. All the money that we make from the DVDs, we really sort of film the whole show professionally. We have 10 cameras in there and make a fantastic DVD. So if you can't get to see the show live, you can buy the DVD and watch it on there, and they've become very popular as well. So get yourself down to Windows and you can get a copy, or you can get the whole lot from 2000 right the way through to 2022. You can buy the whole lot in a special.
So is each show a different show, Tim?
Absolutely. And the great thing is nobody knows who's going to be on. I mean, they know that I'm going to be there. They know that Kevin Whaley is going to be there. They know that Billy Mitchell is going to be there. But people just walk out and shock the audience, Mark Knopfler being one of them, Brian Johnson being another, Anton Deck being another. So every year we have a lot of mystery people that the audience doesn't know who's going to be there.
Absolutely fantastic, and a great cause as well. I think that's brilliant. It's very fitting as well. Really fitting. But I mean, it's, to me, it's like a fellowship thing you have, like the folk. I mean, did you ever think, like, when you first went on to Auf Wiedersehen Pet, that those guys would have, that you would have still been not just working on, but really friendly with these guys over the years?
Yeah, it's a lifetime, really. I mean, we've been friends for 40 years, just about. I mean, and I think working in that hut, it's a bit like being in the army. Yeah. We were in there every day, for months and months. And I mean, of course, the audience only sees 7 of us in there. But when you think we've got the camera crew in there, we've got the makeup in there, we've got the wardrobe department, all the lights. It was like something like 35 people in that little space, And we were just dragging in dirt all the time. We decided to film it in a proper hut, rather than a film set.
Absolutely.
And it was so hard in there, you get into bed and it would be sand. And the bed. Then eventually we said, you know what? When we finish this series, we're going to burn the hut down. That's what all the actors said. They said, we're going to burn it down. And Dick and Ian thought, oh, that's a good idea. Let's burn the hut down. So they burned it down on camera. And but we all became great friends. I'm godfather of Kevin Whaley's son, and he's godfather of mine. And we were together just last week. We went to great Martin McKean, sadly the producer. He died, so we all went to the funeral. And Bill Paterson came down, and Jimmy Neal was there, and Chris Fairbank. Sadly, Tim Spall was filming in Iceland, so he couldn't make it. But Roger Bamford, the director, came, and some of the crew, And so we all meet up, Sadly, nowadays, sometimes they're funerals, because we're all getting older suddenly.
That's the thing. You know. I remember what you said on.
Family,
Yeah, I remember what you said on one of the episodes of Auf Wiedersehen Pet. It's like the older you get, the more funerals you go to.
That's right, rather than weddings. Yeah, I'm getting there myself now, young.
You've still got a few years in you yet, Tim. I'll tell you, a few years in you yet. But
well, 72 weeks ago.
Yeah,
70. I can't believe it. Where's it gone?
Damn, you still look good for your age, mate. You still look great for your age.
Well, I feel absolutely fine. I'm great.
But hey, talking about age, I mean, my dad, he's 84, and God, there's no sign of him slowing down, honestly.
That's good. That's good. It's all in the brain. It's only a number.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you'd love my dad. Yeah. My dad's funny. He's like, see if you were in the pub with him, and I've been in the pub loads of times with my dad, and he's one of these guys who keeps telling you the same story over and over, but they're still funny. And he laughs at it. And honestly, absolutely brilliant. I love going to the pub with my dad. It's just, and
that's great to hear.
Yeah, and he talks about funny stories from when he was in the docks, but also he tells all his tragic stuff as well, which happened to some of his friends, and because working in the docks. Again, my dad was working with a lot of hard men, a lot of tough guys.
Oh, he would have done, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's great, and you picture what happened when my dad was a young man, and how things were, and he describes things. He paints a really good picture when he tells the actual story, and it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. But but I tell you what though, but
give him my love from me, pal. It's hello from me.
I'll do. I tell you, I appreciate that, by the way, because he loves you. He absolutely loves you. He thinks you're brilliant, Tim. He thinks you're fantastic. But but going back to like the actual Auf Wiedersehen Pet, it's like there's different types of guys. Different, not just actors. I know they played brilliant parts in it, but it's just seemed different. Big Pat Roach, and then you've got Christopher Fairbank, you've got Tim Spot and Jimmy Neal. Like you could put I'm not saying be nasty like a motley crew of guys, but just such a great bunch of guys, just fantastic guys, really good.
Yeah.
And
represent different parts of the country. Absolutely. I think that was one of the reasons too that makes it different or special is the fact that you got three Geordies, a Brummie, a Cornishman, a Scouser, and a Cockney, and it's almost like a piece of music. It's good to hear that on the ear. The voices are changing all the time. I think that's why Neighbours is probably a bit boring, because everybody sounds the same. They all talk like that, and the next person speaks, and he sounds the same as him, and he sounds the same as the next guy. And then the next guy comes in, and he sounds the same as him. But if you've got like a Scouser, and then a Joe. It's good to hear on the ear. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a piece of music, And what really frustrates me now, when they rerun the Auf Wiedersehen Pet on one of the satellite channels, they've had to cut some of the jokes out because they're not politically correct, and I realise that, and time moves on. But some of the stuff that they do cut out, I can't see why. But the sad thing is, it's written in, the whole piece is written in beautiful rhythms. In fact, you've got a Scouser talking, then you've got a Cockney talking, then you've got a Brummie talking. Now, if you start cutting bits out, it's almost like listening to a record that sticks all the time. And that's sadly what it does is, by cutting the gags out, it totally ruins the rhythm that has been beautifully written by Dick Clement and Ian Frenny. That rhythm is cut to shreds. and I can't watch it. I can't watch it because, like I say, it's like listening to a record that's just jumping all the time. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Do you know what's ironic
Yeah.
that you said that, Tim? Because I actually watched episode 1 of Auf Wiedersehen Pet last night on one of the satellite channels, and they actually,
All right.
you remember the bit where you sing "Lo Britannia Marmalade and Jam"?
Yeah.
They cut that bit out.
Gone. That's what I mean. And it happens. Well, all the iconic. I mean, poor Jimmy Oz's part is gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every time they're the bastards that bomb me granny. You can't hear that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that was funny.
But lots and lots of lines. You know, they've had to cut out, which is a big shame. I think you should leave things as they are. Really, I mean, unless it's a really terrible racist joke or a sexist joke, or it's harming someone, then of course, yeah, cut it out. But I don't think that Rule Britannia, Marmalade and Jam, 5 Chinese crackers up your arse, all bang, 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 bang. I don't think that's
I mean, that's
too bad, yeah. But yeah, it does make the whole rhythm sound stilted and awkward, So what I'm saying to you is, if you are an Auf Wiedersehen Pet fan, get the video and watch the proper one.
Well, Tim, honestly, I'm nobody's there. I've got all the DVDs. I've got every single DVD of every single episode.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with that, mate. Honestly, and
good.
Every now and then, if I see every now and then you have like a bit of a crap there that stick it on. Honestly, it does you the world of good.
Good.
Does you the world of good.
Especially nowadays, we need someone to have a laugh, don't we? Oh, terrible, all this.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's horrific. I feel so sorry. So, I mean, you feel useless. I mean, what a horrific time they're having out there, so.
Absolutely, mate. It's just, I just think the world's bonkers, and they've just got nutcases running the world as well, eh? So.
Yeah.
Anyway. As you said, you feel hopeless, eh? But, it's just, but one of these things. But, anyway, all I can say is, it's, it's like when we're talking about Auf Wiedersehen Pet and stuff, and I mean, and it's great to have someone like yourself who, when you've had a bad day, you always rely on yourself, and then you're moving on to things like Benidorm.
Yeah,
that was a total different kettle of fish from Dennis, isn't it? You're playing Leslie.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, how that came about is I was at the TV Quick Awards in 2007, I think it was. And Benidorm had just started, and it had won Best Comedy. And I went up to Darren Litton, the writer, and I shook his hand and I said, "Well done, I think it's great," because I really enjoyed watching it. I said, "I think it's great." And he said, "Oh, do you like it?" I said, "I think it's fantastic, yeah." He said, "Well, would you like to do one?" And I said, "Well, I'd love to do it." By this time, I'd had a few beers. We're all drinking this free drink at the end of the awards. And he said, "Well, what would you like to play?" Well, this time I'd had a few pints. And I said, I said, something people would never expect me to be, He said, like, what? I said, I don't know. I said, a transvestite. I said, drunk. It's a transvestite. I said, anyway, I forgot all about it. The next morning, I woke up with a little bit of a headache, and then 6 weeks later, a script arrived. And here I am asking me to play this transvestite. And I thought, oh, my God, I'm playing a transvestite. So then I thought, well, I've said I would be a transvestite, so I've got to be a transvestite, And lots of ways, of course, to play a transvestite, but I didn't want to be gay or an insult, to the gay community. I thought, what I'll be is the butchest bloke you've ever seen in a dress. And that's what I decided to do. And that's where the character Leslie came from.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Hey, you could
So,
shift on those roller skates, can't you?
well, yeah, that was. He just said to me one day, "Can you rollerblade?" And I said, "I'll have a try." I mean, I was absolutely crap when I started, and once or twice I wiped a few tables out, with not being able to stop. I remember throwing a tray of drinks over Sheila Reid one day because I could skate all right, but I couldn't stop. And then eventually I got better at it. But that was great fun to do because it was just all the characters are larger than life in it, It's a bit like the modern day Carry On films. That's how I look at it. And I had 8 years out there, fun in the sun, really good.
Fantastic. And you know what? You know what's really funny as well? It's the fact, I mean, you filmed that in the Sol Pelicanos, didn't you?
That's right, yeah.
And I actually stayed in that hotel for
Well, when we first started there, we had to use just a little part of the pool, a tiny little part of the pool, and then everybody complained. But once the show was on, you can't get in that hotel now. It's become so popular because people would just come and stand there all day in 35 degrees of heat. They'd stand there and watch us filming, So it's become a very popular hotel now.
Absolutely.
Thanks to the program. Yeah.
Absolutely. But you know what I found when I stayed in that hotel? It was, I mean, I used to go on guys' holidays years ago with my pals, and we used to go to Spain or we used to go to Greece and Turkey. And obviously, you had a lot of, if there's a big group of guys, a big group of girls and stuff, they'd make a big racket. But I found when I stayed in that hotel, I mean, there was like pensioners. Oh my God, they're just, what a racket they were making. And a lot of them were like, music was loud or banging their doors.
Yeah, that's Benidorm. It's great. You see the whole world in Benidorm. I love Benidorm. It's got everything you want there. If you want the madness, you've got the strip where all the entertainment's on. Absolutely. And if you just go into the old town, it's like proper Spain, tapas bars and very Spanish. So you've got the whole thing there, really. It's a great place, Benidorm.
Absolutely. I love Benidorm. And one of the things which I normally enjoy doing is like, once we get there, it's like we like to go to like there's a bar which is like along the promenade bit, but it's like a rock and roll bar. It's like and it's got like a pool table in it and stuff. And it's good to have a couple of beers in there. And there's there's guys that are playing the electric guitar now outside it and stuff. And like they're playing,
that's the rock and roll bar, just opposite, they're just up from the Pelican.
Yeah, and they're playing like the Eagles and stuff like that. And it's brilliant. Or you've got but my favourite bar is right next to him. See if you know where the Presidente is?
Yeah.
Right next to it, there's a bar. It's got like a big Spitfire kind of like hanging out of it.
I know what you mean. Yes, I've been there, yeah. We filmed there, yeah.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that bar. Yeah, I absolutely love that bar. It's just great. And one of the things I loved about it was, I think Euro 96, it was one of the Euros or one of the World Cups were on. And it was just great. They had the big screen outside of it. Yeah. The sun was still beating down. And you've got a big bucket of like the Desperado beers or Heineken, and you're watching the game, and it was fantastic. Benidorm's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was funny. It was funny in that episode when Sticky Vicky came on it. That was quite funny.
I've never been to see her. I've never been to see. I went there for 8 years, and a lot of the cast went, but I just couldn't. I love women so much, that I thought that would put me off women forever.
Yeah, that's
so I never went.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like, don't get me wrong.
My daughter's Sticky Vicky now. Yeah.
Hey, what a baton to pass on, isn't it, Tim?
Yeah.
But Benidorm, you're talking Benidorm. Benidorm's just fantastic, you know. And I like going at the old town. There's a bar which is at the top of the old town. You go down the steps of it. Sherry's Bar, that's it. Sherry's Bar.
All right. Yeah.
And you know, but the guy who works in there, the guy who owns the place, he's had that bar for something like 40 or nearly 50 years. An English bloke called Jeff. And like years ago, my dad and the rest of the dockers all used to go there. You know, every single year they would go. There's a big group of them, say maybe 20, 25 of them. And and then Jeff's, we still got it now, which is unbelievable. But you know, it's like, it's just great. Benidorm is just, to me, it's probably one of my favorite places, you know. But but I was going to kind of move on a wee bit, Tim. I was going to ask you something. See, when you were in Auf Wiedersehen Pet, was that real beer you were drinking?
In the early days, when we first started off, you wouldn't believe it now, but on a filming day, as we arrived at the studio, we were given champagne, and orange juice before we started filming. I mean, that is unheard of. I mean, now, and we did used to drink Beck's when we first started, but after a couple of months, it obviously it doesn't work. So no. Then they stopped all that. So it wasn't good beer now.
Right. But it's funny because, I mean, especially like when you're delivering the cocktails in the Sol Pelican, like what was Leslie and the whole, was it the Solana?
Yeah, that's it.
And I tell you what, it takes a lot of skill for to be on rollerblades and having drinks.
It was hard work in the sun, you know. When you think everybody else are lying around the pool in swimming costumes, I've got these tits on and